Um, but again, I mean, this is a time, the timing of these assassination attempts. It's like I keep saying I can forgive people for being conspiratorial. It's like right when the lawfare reaches a screeching halt and reaches a brick wall, then you see violence. But to not even be conspiratorial at all, I believe there's a direct connection between the hysteria that's in the air about Ukraine, about the election deadline that has been put forward by so many proxy warriors, where Donald Trump could come into office and, in their worst nightmares, cut off aid to Ukraine. And so everything needs to be done now. The weapons need to be shipped now. Moscow needs to be consumed in flames now. I feel like it makes sense that Ryan Ruth was consumed with that same mentality. Yeah. And it's something you hear from the white-gloved, soft-handed, seemingly sensible wing of the foreign policy elite in Washington. I mean, Fareed Zakaria was saying this in his take last weekend and in his Washington Post column, that there's basically a deadline to get these weapons to Ukraine. And Trump, it's because of Trump. So if Trump is just, I mean, the logical deduction you can make is if we can just get Trump out of the way, like Putin, he's a singular figure. He's a unique figure who cannot be replaced. And after Trump, there's just Nikki Haley and Ted Cruz and Lindsey Graham and all of these much more malleable figures. And JD Vance goes with Trump. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't know. Should we play the Fareed take? Is it worth it?
Well, let me just make one point. And it's all this hysteria. And I'm sorry to use the word hysteria. Remember when it was considered sexist to use the word hysteria for some reason?
Anyway, it's ableist, but
yeah, but okay, sorry. But
I apologize to
is compound
for.
It's hard to find a word anyway, but all this is compounded by Russiagate, right? Because people want to forget about it now because it was so embarrassing that everybody, except for a small number of us, like in media, bought into it. But for years, liberals were flooded every single day, every hour on MSNBC and CNN and on social media with insane theories that Trump was a Russian agent and he was about to get caught.
He's a traitor. I mean, John Brennan, the CIA director, is a traitor. What's the penalty for treason?
Yeah. John Brennan called Trump nothing short of treasonous. And he, you know why he said that? He said that because Trump dared to question the claims of a sweeping Russian interference campaign to install him, a claim for which there remains no evidence, and in fact, ample countervailing evidence. But anyway, so like in a situation where people are, malleable people are being flooded every single day with like insane propaganda that the president of the United States is a Manchurian candidate, being controlled by Vladimir Putin. You know, like that was Rachel Maddow's show every single night for years. People are going to be impacted by that. And then when that campaign gives way to an all-out hot war in which now we're on opposing sides, and the idea of diplomacy with Russia it's been drummed into people's heads that that's like tantamount to treason, because that's what Trump was talking about when he was elected, actually getting along with Russia. Of course, it's quite plausible to think that someone like this guy was impacted by that and he snapped. And he's already clearly a mentally unstable person. And so it's totally fair to speculate that that contributed to his actions here.
Yeah. And more to come. I don't know I'm not saying necessarily more direct assassination attempts, but everything has been tried. The impeachment of Donald Trump was directly related to Ukraine, and specifically to Donald Trump trying to get information on Hunter Biden, which we were told was a Russian disinformation conspiracy and not even true, by forces organized by Democratic operative turned Secretary of State Tony Blinken.
Yeah, and not even that. He also was trying, the transcript shows that Trump's actually first order of business when he talked to Zelensky, it wasn't even about the Bidens. The first thing he asked Zelensky for was help with cooperating in John Durham's investigation into Russiagate, because there's a huge Ukraine tie to Russiagate. Ukrainian officials tried to undermine Trump's campaign. They leaked the fake ledger that got Paul Manafort fired. They openly said, there's an article in the Financial Times talking about Ukrainian officials are trying to stop Trump's election because they see Hillary Clinton as being more favorable to their project of basically having a war with the Donbass rather than making peace. So Trump is actually asking Zelensky for help on that. And then later on, he says also, if there's anything you do in terms of the Bidens, because we heard about this fired prosecutor, which Joe Biden bragged about. That's later on. But it's actually buried that there's a Russiagate tie. And actually, recently in the New York Times, it came out that Ukrainian intelligence, overseen by John Brennan, who is like, his fingerprints are all over everything. The coup in 2014. I reported recently that he actually greenlit Ukraine's invasion of the Donbass in April of 2014, according to a witness in the room who I've interviewed for the Grayzone, Andrei Telechenko. And then John Brennan was in 2016. It only recently came out in the Times, years later, that John Brennan, in making the CIA's assessment that Russia interfered on Trump's behalf, he relied critically on Ukrainian intelligence, which basically he closely managed as a result of the U.S.-backed coup in 2014, which made him a very big player inside Kyiv because, of course, John Brennan helped back that coup. So all this ties back to Russiagate, and it really is blowback in more ways than one.
And Donald Trump was meeting with Viktor Orban. Again, this is about why people are getting conspiratorial, not any direct line I'm drawing. But I do think that the overall plot to take out Donald Trump it centers around Ukraine and the new Cold War, because that's one of the few major areas where he has really attempted to go against the grain and prove to be sort of rogue, not promoted continuity. But before the first assassination attempt, Donald Trump was meeting with Viktor Orban. Viktor Orban, president of Hungary, was the first EU leader since Russia's invasion of Ukraine in February 2022 to initiate direct talks with Vladimir Putin about a peaceful resolution to this disastrous conflict, which has left tens and tens of thousands dead. And he was denounced by EU Viceroy Queen, Imperial Queen Ursula von der Leyen. He was denounced by Joseph Borrell. He was denounced by Annalena Baerbock, the foreign minister of Germany. Across the board, Orban was denounced. So it's just off limits to even talk about peace now. Now we, of course, have Victoria Nuland's acknowledgement that Aaron Mate was right, that the U.S. and Boris Johnson, the UK, sabotaged peace talks in April 2022 between Russia and Ukraine that would have spared so many lives and probably spared territory that Ukraine is losing. They're losing so much territory right now in key transportation corridors in the East. So that's what this is about for Ryan Ruth. Maybe Ryan Ruth wasn't put up to it, but that's what this is about for him. And it's also what it's about for the Beltway elite, which will prefer much more elegant means of stopping Donald Trump